A little while later, he's already grown, and I told him in a text, this is how I communicate with the 18-year-old, is I can only do this now, or he will only accept this now. And I told him I would be reading these poems for him. So his name is Octavio. I named him after Senor Paz. Excuse me. It's called Look at Me. The last line in this poem, which sort of inspired the poem long before it was actually written, it comes from, I was reading an interview with one of my favorite fiction writers, Japanese writer Haruki Murakami. And in the interview, he said the last line of this poem. This is called Look at Me. Now that the center can hold me, a shadow having found its source, at the edge of a playground, I watch fat crows perched in oaks. I count children kinetic under a summer sun, my son among them, a sweaty reflection seeming to always turn to me grinning, his face glowing with excitement. Look at me, Daddy, look at me. I look, I always look, and look, where I'm coming from the blind now see. Bulk of leaves gushing green, a sky so blue it has to be a sea. This mariner's night unanchored, drifting in summer air, he runs to me, my son. I bury my face into his moist hair. Just living itself is an act of prophecy. The legs are still shaking. No, not at all. I read here a long time ago. I was a featured reader back when this book came out, and Mark, it was a long time, and it's been a long time since I've been here, and so wow, you've done great things with the place, Mark. No smoke. This book came out a few years ago. I'm supposed to, Abrazo Press published it. It's a little chapbook. All the money goes back to Abrazo Press. Carlos would insist that I tell you all that I have copies to sell. So that's done. This collection of 20 poems, cycle of poems, all dealing with the time of day, a book of mornings. They're small, they're short, they don't have titles individually, and I'll just read a couple more of those, and then I have time for some newer work, and I'll finish with that. This is called, and this is from Book of Mornings. I used to drink, but I don't anymore, so this is what used to happen when I drank. Last night ended this morning with sporadic restitutions offered to a porcelain deity, kneeling on chilled tiles while contemplative eyes of a cat paid witness to my submission. Another celebration heaving its way to a definite end. Darwin would surely be forced to reconsider his theory, me on all fours. It's a good thing cats can't speak my language, otherwise I'd never hear the end. My hands are restless dreamers that awaken early, seeking your geography. Two hardy explorers hiking over valleys and hills of your warm terrain. They need no light, these faithful adventurers. Memory guides them through receding shadows of familiar textures, soft nostalgia, their only goal.
Yes, sir.
Time for a couple more. Okay. This is an older poem, but I like reading this. It's called Canine Life. I've almost died several times in my life, drowning, being hit by cars a couple of times. This was this second to last. I was on a bike. I was hit by a car in Logan Square. It's called Canine Life. After my head was baptized on asphalt, my eyes began to see the world as Jesus might have, with his crown of thorns, daylight replaced by drops of red, and salty taste of sweat creeping at the swollen lips. It hurts. But I am no Jesus, and the driver of the car that hit me was no Judas. just an uninsured kid momentarily distracted by an explosion of overactive levels of testosterone. He told me later, I didn't see you, man, I was looking at this girl. But what the hell? I'm just a man who buys more books than he can read, having given up the bar and cafe life for the solace of quiet libraries, a feigning pseudo-intellectual who's put all his eggs into a basket labeled language. I'm sinning my way into the next life, hoping that karma is just a noun, 2 Eastern syllables that it will overlook my Western errors. But I keep mental notes on the behavior of dogs just in case there's some truth to it. One never knows when the kennel might be the next stop. Yet all of that is mere speculation. The matter at hand was more tangible, and after the stitches were removed, scabs that resembled the bellies of cockroaches began to peel off, blood having taken on the shape of modern sculptures. I was looking like a rejected Giacometti who had to learn to walk again, forever looking both ways, limping to the other side while others avoided me with passing comments. Did you see that guy? He looks like he's been in a fight. I was a wounded citizen with no hope of retribution, another sucker sideswiped by fate, whose stars were down on their luck. But that caca gets old fast. Who cares, Bato? My crooked shadow seemed to tell me. The fact is, I'm here, and it took a blow to the head to release my demons, a scarlet split to count my blessings, drop by drop. It took the taste of my own blood, a salty trickle from the brow, to make me realize just how close I had come to a barking canine life. Okay. It's a serious or light.
Whatever you feel like.
I'm going to read this one because I just wrote it, and he's an old friend of mine. We've known each other since we were 12. His name is Tony. It's called Blue Heron in Winter. We've gone white, my friend, a bit bald as well. What is left on our heads longs to match the season. Brooded snow beneath us. Even strands in our nostrils have gone tow-haired. But that's only a guess. I only know what I know, and what I know is that I've known you since we were children. And what is that but a lifetime looking back, as we chit-chat and small talk through a winter forest, cold bark bare ice-wrapped trunks, trekking a path covered in mammal prints, both wild and domesticated, bantering about coyote, fox, and buck deer, and a mountain lion rumored to have wandered this far. A blue heron quietly gliding to a wet landing along the river. A trail we followed, twisting and bending along its banks. How many times had we done this, followed this path and talked? I saw the heron's feathers through thin trunk trees, almost sky blue in dimming light, and then you said that you needed to take a leak, and I watched as you cut a path into the thicket. Then I noticed how dark it was getting, and I turned to look at where we had just walked from, and I couldn't make out our tracks, and I turned again and lost you. Calling out your name, you didn't answer, and I stood there looking at us from every angle out of every year and every season. Then there you were, smiling, lifting your long legs over thorn bush, walking through snow drifts back to the trail, puffing out clouds of steam, pointing at them, saying, "It's getting cold, you can see your breath." And I thought at that moment, I love you. I've known you long enough to say, with ease, such a simple thing. 2 old friends who met on the 6th grade monkey bars, and now stand on a snow-covered trail in a forest in winter, going gray, going bald, watching a heron fly away through clouds of our own making. Thanks a lot.
Wasn't that wonderful? There's the true soul of a poet right over there. Take a break when we take a break.